Oh, okay.
But they jumped the condominium costs like crazy.
Oh,
No use at all.
yeah.
$50. Yeah. Actually, I think mine's 4 sides. That's what mine is. The single.
We're good, how are you?
Hey, sorry, I have all my questions.
Sure.
We all wrote that.
Yeah, we will this time. Yeah, but we should live stream every so anytime.
Do I end up sending you what I probably should have done? Just a little short sentence.
Yeah, I thought Connie said it was pretty much level, like 13 cents a kilowatt hour or something.
I'm gonna get these.
You're good. Right.
Yeah, you got it.
Yep.
We're all good.
Find a way to shoot.
Yeah, that really for sure. We're all electric. Okay, call the meeting to order. If I could ask everybody to please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Chris Buckman. Here. Brandon Earl.
Here.
Deanna Garver.
Here.
Tom Henny.
Here.
Andrea Trifles.
Here.
Jason Newberry.
Here.
Pat Zika.
Alright. Next thing we got is adoption of the agenda.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor raise their hand. All those opposed, same. Okay. Recognition patrons. Anybody sign up tonight, Adam?
Not this evening.
Alright. Moving on then to discussion items. First thing we have is athletic facilities.
Yes, last month, DCS, Brett was here from DCS to present to the board about the two proposed possibilities for track football field upgrades. There's no necessary funding tied to this at this time. This is simply in the idea stage. This was in the facility committee and then came out to the facility committee to the board. And so we had that discussion last month, so you've had a month to mull on it and get feedback from the community. And so really what we kind of need to do next is move towards, if the board has any feedback on what Brett brought to you and what we need to take back to him and the committee as to any proposed changes that the board is interested in communicating back to DCS.
I had one person ask me, if an individual or corporation would contribute a large amount to either updating the Wellington, Kansas High School football or the football stadium, would they be able to have naming rights to it?
We would have to look at policy and see how the board wanted to deal with it, and that would be a board decision at the end, yeah. But that's definitely something that we would want to look at, for sure.
Okay, I have lots of questions.
Yeah.
First, I asked this question last time, but I didn't feel like I got an answer.
Okay.
I think I have it here. I'm just gonna round these numbers off, but basically, a brand new stadium, which would be amazing, I'm not against that at all, is only roughly a little over $1 million more. It's $5,300,000, and the other is like $3,900,000. So if you kind of round it around, it's just a little over $1 million more. I don't see any way the new place can pay for a brand new track, which we all know is at least $900,000 to $900,000 to over $1 million. And a turf field is the same amount as well. So, and I talked to Brandon a little bit, and he said he kind of had that question at first, but and I asked that last week, but I don't feel like, does anybody else think that's
You
strange?
feel like the budget number's off, you mean? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't know, I'm ready for the discussion, but it's just a little over $1 million more to have a brand new track and a brand new field.
Yeah, that's what he presented anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. I would have to bring him back to answer that question, but I'm not sure. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Okay, so, according to your briefs, it sounds like you're kind of wanting, there should be a third option, which the third option should be, do we want, if we remodel the current facility, we're going to need to, and I think you mentioned this, do something at the brand new track. So I think that should be part of the whole deal.
Okay.
Because, we've been talking about that. And your brief sounded like you want some answers right now. And I've been talking about this for 8 years. And bam, here it is, and without anything.
What do you mean without anything?
Well, a few years ago, Dr. Whitener, I don't know how long ago that was, anyway, he put together a committee, he had a fundraiser dinner at the high school. He reached out to the public, to businesses, to, people that would be possible contributors. The Crusader Club had a rendition of what it would look like, and I don't think anybody on the board saw that. I don't think anything, was done or said about that.
Sure.
And I think the public needs some input. And I don't think, I might be wrong, but I don't think there's any way Wellington, Kansas will pass a bond issue for a sports facility. So, I think that's, so, I'll let somebody else chip in if you have to. and then I'll-
So, just a couple of points, I did see that rendering, of the other locker room
yeah.
facility that was down there. I believe it was kinda in the Girl Scout, where the old Girl Scout house used to be, somewhere around in there.
Yeah, because originally we wanted it, we were
Right.
gonna put it in the parking lot of the middle school because we own that.
Right,
And then when you said the city was, which made sense.
right,
interested
so there
about
was a
it.
partnership kinda going between
Yeah.
the city and the school district, and then I just,
Yeah.
you're right, it just kinda lost traction.
Yeah,
I think it was a funding thing, I think it was
yeah,
purely
well,
a
yeah,
funding thing.
and we all know we need better bathrooms, we need better, ticket things, we just, I'm totally not against the whole brand new one, I like the tradition, I like it was the first lighted field in the United States, I like my stepdad played that night. I like all the tradition, but you go anywhere else and we're so outdated, but we have to think, will we be able to ever do that in Wellington? So,
I think that's kind of the direction you're wanting tonight, right? Whether we
Yeah,
want to do-
just ideas. This is not something that has to be decided tonight. This is just, we're just headed down this road. I mean, really, one of the district goals that you put into place a year ago was to have this a little further along, and that was the first time it made it out of the strategic plan into the district goals
it's
since.
been a district goal forever.
Yeah, it's been in the strategic plan forever. But as far as actually district goal, that is set up for this year, and so this is starting the process. It does not mean that we have to, we can bring Brett back, we can reach out to the community, we can do anything we wanna do with this. It's just very early stages and talking about it. If the board is interested in a bond issue in the future, then that is something we'd also wanna bring Dustin Avey down to get information from Piper Sandler, just to discuss that. It would not be a bond issue just for this, it would be a bond issue that would have multiple things to upgrade the district. And that would also be up to the board to discuss all those things as well. So there's multiple facets within all this that all needs discussed. But this is just the starting point. So Pat, everything you're saying is great. Back to you, Chris. There may be a policy already in place, I just don't have that memorized, so I may be able to have that to you by tomorrow, I'm not sure, on naming rights. So,
It was strange that the locker rooms were on opposite sides, because usually they're together. But Brendan mentioned to me, maybe it was because space.
yeah, I think that's what I remember him saying anyway.
Okay,
Yeah.
because that seems strange. And of course, I like the football field thing. So, I'm all for tradition, so Bell would need to be taller.
Well, I think the idea was to bring the
Bell
bell
back.
over, yeah, so the current bell. He just made it really short there.
But I do think we need to start talking about it. I mean,
Yep.
we're a total embarrassment, and people that don't think our athletic facilities are important, they just don't understand. I mean, we've been talked about by school, we always compare ourselves and look at what other districts are doing as far as salaries, as far as anything.
Mhm.
Well, I'll tell you, they're laughing at us right now, and they have been, so.
Tom, did you have something?
So this kind of ties into, this roughly, but what's the life, how much longer do we have to address the roof at the high school? What's the expected?
Well, it needs addressed now. I mean, I think the original roof, I'm trying to, this is scary. I'm channeling Don McMicken right now. He said that, I believe that was originally a 15-year roof, and he thought that if we, because we were spending all this money fixing the masonry walls, that we could get by for longer, because that seemed to be the only issue within the building besides little normal leaks. But he said eventually it's gonna have to be, so that building is now 20 years old, so.
So is that
it's set up
something
for that.
that we're gonna be able to pay out of capital outlay, or is this
That's the.
maybe married with the bond
A
project?
few years ago, just for budget numbers, I had that run and it was about $1.5 million to do that, just that, which is what we have in capital outlay right now. So if you went and fixed that roof right now, you would have nothing left for anything else.
Is
So,
it leaking anymore? I mean, we've had some rain.
yeah, it just in small spots. The craziness that I had dealt with when I was there is gone now. So it's much better. It's much more like where now where like an air conditioning unit sits or something like that just creates some sort of issue.
We had shake shingles on our house for 35 years, and I think they only had a 15-year lifespan, so you can go sometimes longer.
So theoretically, is that gonna, will that last, I mean, that's a hard question to answer, but is we expecting it to last until maybe a bond project, or?
We're hoping for that, yeah. I mean, that'd be number one thought process as far as putting a bond together, would be something like that. Also, the parking lot out there's massive amounts of asphalt, from Crusader Drive all the way through that thing, and that is all, aging as well, and that is a huge, huge project. We just spent money getting that all patched to get by, and we've had to, it gets big cracks, and we've had to go in and fill in the cracks and all that kind of stuff, and cut out some of those things and fill them in, but that, you can only do that for so long, so that's another massive project. Some of the money that the community is saving right now, as far as local money, is our ESSER dollars that are coming in, and that is helping us do some upgrades that would probably be on a bond had COVID not happened, so that's all, communities kind of get helped as far as what a bonded issue we might put together versus this. So, obviously with the board's done a big project with Lincoln and Washington windows that'll happen at some point, and that would have been something probably that we put on bond, but we don't have to now because of that. And we still have ESSER dollars that we're working on as far as looking at HVAC and things like that. So there's definitely dollars that would not be a part of that in the future, that are kind of projects that we're able to do because of that.
Were the windows and carpet that we've been doing, was that on our 5-year strategic plan anywhere?
The carpet, yes. The windows, I don't think that necessarily was in there. I think that was connected to a need and the fact that it fit with the ESSER dollars. Carpet would not fit with that, so.
Back to the football stadium.
Yes.
They're fixing the one we have right now. It doesn't say if that's not an artificial turf. It doesn't say.
What they
The
did?
current,
No,
The
the
bid,
remodeling of our current field, it doesn't say that it's
I
artificial turf.
think I asked him that question, I don't think that included any of the dirt work, that didn't include anything to do with the actual field
so they
itself.
said it was, or somebody who said something about
The
the
crown.
Yeah,
leveling.
crown.
Crown
Yeah.
is horrible,
Yeah, the crown definitely needs.
but it's not as simple as, because you have irrigation,
Mhm.
and you can't just go bring wheelbarrows of dirt in there and level it out, it has to be all dug up and.
well, I definitely agree with Pat that if we are looking at doing a package deal, which I know it's just early talks, but we need a little bit of idea of what the track project would look like.
Okay.
So we can at least include that.
And I think you need to include the turf and level out that field if you can do that, because that might give us a little more information.
So turf at current stadium and
What are we all thinking about the track? What are some ideas, what do you guys think it needs? I know what I think, but, what's somebody else think?
The current
Yeah, the current, where the track is right now.
bathrooms,
Oh,
seating,
come on, they're clean.
everything.
Everything, yeah.
You go to, my daughter runs track in Crestman, you go to some of these other facilities and are just kind of sad, but
It'd be
Okay,
nice.
so we'll bring back, idea of turf at current stadium and also ideas for current track facility. That's been approached a little bit, but it's not gone far enough to present like this, so we'll get it to that direction.
I'd like to have more public input.
Okay.
At least let them know the situation that we're looking at with dollars and stuff, because
Okay.
there's a lot that still want it there because of tradition, but.
Right.
Just dollar wise.
Yeah.
Might not make the best value.
We should interrupt. I know a few years ago, Mulvane was wanting to make their current high school, their middle school, and kind of do some different things like that. And when they kind of got to the final stages where they were gonna bring it to the public, they didn't have enough tax base. And so it just kind of died because of that, because the bond or whatever wouldn't. So I just wonder, can you look into that ahead of time to know whether, you know what I'm saying?
So I
We
think
have
that,
bonds dropping off.
yeah, we have bonds dropping
Yeah.
off, and what I'm picturing is the bond that's dropping off this is gonna be substantially smaller than that bond, so we're not gonna, I'm thinking that we're actually gonna be able to drop quite a bit off of that and still maintain these projects.
That'd be my hope.
But you have to have a vote, don't you?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, potentially, building that high school now compared to 2002, I mean, I can't imagine what it would be, so I don't know if you add up all this stuff, what it would be, but at the same time, the board can also decide how big that bond is, so.
And it failed, the only reason it passed was it got free land. One of the main reasons we passed the second time. I'm just worried that it wouldn't pass. I'd vote. There are a lot of people on fixed incomes and $5 gas.
This is kind of a minor thing, and I don't even know really how we address it, but, I mean, we all know that there's a little bit of a parking issue at the current facility. So I don't even know how you address that, to be honest with you. I mean, it's just kind of the nature of where it is.
Right.
So I don't know if that's something that you can approach with architect or anybody like that as far as potential options there.
Okay.
And I'd like to see some hard surface parking down there besides on the street, so we can accommodate.
And then just a little lot, but on the other side of the tennis courts.
Yeah.
That is also needs repair. Okay, is the board interested in, just for informational purposes, inviting Dustin down just to talk to him about what that would look like in the future?
I don't know the difference in price, why it's so close.
And I meant for bond information. Is that something you want me to set up?
Yes.
I think so.
I think
Yeah.
it'd be better.
More information we have,
It's
then
just information, yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts before we go back to the drawing board?
Just a little bitty minor thing.
Yep.
There's that great big meeting room on the front of the home locker rooms on that rendering. I don't know if that's necessary.
Okay.
That might save some dollars.
anything else? You got enough direction, Adam, to?
No, I'm good, yes, thank you. That's
Yes,
exactly what I was looking for tonight. I just wanted to
Okay.
pick everybody's brains and see where we want to go from here, so.
Everybody good? Moving on? Okay. Next thing we got is strategic plan and district goals work session.
Yes, so it's that time of year where we're wrapping up district goals and revising strategic plan district goals. The district's been working on that, and so we would like to hold a work session. We're throwing out August 1st at 6 o'clock as a potential time to do that. It's a Monday night. And so we can spend some time as a group going over those and getting feedback from you.
That's not a good day for me, but that's just me.
How's it look for everybody else?
I'm good.
What day would work for you, Pat? I mean, is just Monday's not good, or?
No, just that week.
Oh, okay. the next week could be the board meeting, so that's. You wanna pencil in the first, and then we can maybe look for alternative dates, just in case,
Yeah, that'd be fine. So I'd like to get Pat
so we're
there.
not
Yeah, let's get
spinning
Pat there if
wheels
we
here.
can.
Maybe I can do it, just
remotely.
maybe, yeah.
Would you be available for that? Okay.
I think we got our new
Yeah, we do right here.
device, so.
We got it, yeah, the one that, we could hear you loud and clear, Pat, that last time, so we ended up buying, Jason brought that from the city, but we ended up buying one because it worked really well.
Now,
No, it's not the owl,
Oh.
it's just a jabber speaker.
oh,
That's
okay.
pretty good. Okay, so we'll pencil in the first and kind of maybe look for an alternative date. That work for you, Chris?
Yeah, I'll send out
Everybody else
alternatives, just to check, see if we can get Pat there.
Okay, moving on, legislative updates.
Yes. Sorry, making notes. Okay, legislature was very, busy, this year. With some, normally I don't spend a ton of time, going over legislative updates. I know that was one of Rick Weiss's favorite things to do here, but,
I remember those days.
yeah, I typically don't, but we had some that are pretty key that I want you to be aware of, that will directly affect the board and the district. One of those is coming up very quickly, so as soon as our principals get back, I am going to start the process. The legislature is having us do building needs assessments by building, and so I'm gonna have them working on that out of the gate. Essentially what they need to do, what the legislature is trying to get us to do, which we already do, but they're trying to get us to, communicate it better, I suppose, is to connect specific budget needs and then all with state assessment scores. So essentially, you will have each building putting together ideas of their needs assessment for their building based off of their scores, and then how that would potentially be, protected by the budget or connect to the budget. We have to have all these done, then we submit them to the board, and then the board would put together their own needs assessment based off of all the building assessments that you get. And then we have to approve all of that the same night as we approve the budget, which this year will be in the September board meeting. The August board meeting, we'll start talking about the budget, and the September board meeting, we will approve it. And so, so just want you to be aware that that's, even though that got approved, they did not give us a year's notice on that. They want us to start that immediately. And so we will start that process as soon as principals get back, and I just want you to be aware that that is coming down the pike. And the other thing, which is gonna be very interesting, we have a little time on this. By January of 2024, basically every district in Kansas will have to adopt a policy to determine the number of non-resident students that our district can take. One of the things that will help us there has already been done by the board when we're working on restructuring and talking about class sizes and all that has been approved by the board already. So that will help us a little bit in this process, but essentially each year in May, the board has to determine, starting in 24, the board has to determine for each grade level and each building, the capacity that we have open that we would allow students in from other districts. And then after we do that, we have to publish that, just like we publish the budget, saying this is the number of spots essentially that the board will allow for non-resident students to come in each of those grades. And then from June to June 30th, then we have to go through applications of non-resident students and either accept them or have some sort of policy that is connected to them not being here, whether it be an expulsion at a different district or some of those things, we might have to put in policy. And then essentially we would go through that. Now, my understanding, or Darcy and I's understanding when we were at the workshop, was that if let's say you have 5 slots open, the board says we have 5 slots open at Lincoln 3rd grade, and we get 10 applications for Lincoln 3rd grade, then we have to come up with some sort of lottery system that would randomly draw out of the 5 in order to make that work so it's fair for all students. But that all has to be written in policy, and so we will be going down that road for the 24-25 school year. So that's going to get pretty interesting, to say the least. So I just want you to be aware of those. We have some time on that one, but the other one we will be starting work on immediately. So those are the 2 that I mainly wanted to show you out of the list that I sent you for information purposes.
When you bring that to us later on,
Yes.
can we have the transfers in and out? Those numbers are like rough estimates of
Sure.
how many transfers we actually have right now.
Yeah, we can figure that out.
I've been following that kind of closely, so my understanding is once we take them as a out-of-district student, as our student, we can't just reject them the next year unless
there is a problem or
Okay.
something. And we would have to write that in policy.
okay, so once they
Right.
become a transfer in, they
Yes.
are a transfer
They
in.
are a transfer in, and
Okay.
they're our student, and so we have to, and so that's why the board, it's gonna be tricky. You know, if you're like a growing district, and so you have more and more students coming every year, then that's gonna be tough to estimate, how much gap room you have. And so it's just gonna depend. I can also see, the competitive people of the world using this to try to affect sports across the state as well, trying to make that happen. So anyway, so it's just gonna be interesting as it all unfolds, and I'm sure they may make adaptations to it as we go too.
What happens if you let people in and then the enrollment for that school?
Then in the middle of the year.
My 4 kids need to go to Lincoln, but oops.
Yep, now this family moves in and all that, then we have to take them. Now we're over. Yep, we have to take them. So, yeah, so we're gonna have to figure out a way to balance all that for it to make it sense for our schools. So, anyway, so that's down, like I said, that's down a ways. The needs assessment stuff you'll be hearing about that very soon. So. Any other questions on that? Okay.
Next thing is the Kennedy outbuilding.
Yes, this is really just getting feedback from the board. We have put, there was a big push, there's been big push over time by different parties. I know Jillian, before she left, was definitely wanting to have that building go. The building is not necessarily in bad shape, but it definitely would take money to update it. It's a matter of whether that is something that we want to use for district storage. If it's something where we feel like we could have some other people. If we want to continue to use it, then then there's possibility of using it potentially for school psychs or some of those people that work across the district. Or if it is something that needs to, be a part of our history. So, put a couple of demolition bids. I think I had one to you last month, and we got another one in there this month, just to give you an idea. They are quite a bit different, but that's literally leveling it and getting it out of there. The biggest issue, like Pat and I were talking about this the other day, we used to have preschool classes in there. And I think the biggest issue with that is just safety and security, because it is outside of the school building, and so students would have to transfer outside back and forth in order to use that. So anyway, just getting ideas on how you guys feel about it. I know there's been boards in the past that have felt very strongly about this. They wanted both buildings gone no matter what, or there are certain board members anyway. So I just want to get a feeling for what your guys' direction is for us regarding that.
I thought the quote was actually pretty reasonable.
The second one,
Yeah,
or the lower one?
Yeah. I think we'd spend that on maintenance, upkeep, and utilities on that thing.
That's what I was gonna ask, what's it cost for us to keep it? I mean,
Yeah, I don't know if that's tied into
Roughly.
just that might be tied into
the whole building.
Kennedy's bill, so I don't know if we'd have to piece that out somehow, figure that out.
I just look at a roof that's gotta be replaced,
Heating and air conditioning.
heating, air conditioning.
Yeah, it's really not worth fixing it.
I don't want the board to, I don't want you to, get an impression from us that the building's in bad shape, cause it's not. It's not something that is something that, can't be reused. We would just be getting rid of it, we don't wanna use it. And, we don't wanna shove storage in there and all that kind of stuff. So right now, because it's unused, it attracts critters underneath it and stuff like that, so it's.
So you mentioned the storage thing here a few years ago, we talked about the McKinley building.
Yep.
And storage there, and I would assume at that time we thought the storage was needed, but we don't feel the storage is needed at this time.
I don't think so.
I think it's one of those things, the more storage you have available, the more stuff
Yeah.
that gets stored.
It's just like your attic.
Guilty as charged.
It's just like your attic, yep.
So are we basically saying it can't be used for students anymore? I mean, that makes a difference.
No, it can be used, I think it's what I'm saying is that the topic that has come up when it's been talked about being used is safety and
Yeah.
security because of the transfer between buildings,
I
so.
don't like the idea of kids moving back and forth between the buildings with the whole safe and secure piece.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Officer Wiley will talk about this at some point, but that's also an issue at the high school between the ag shop and that back door that we've dealt with for years, that's really difficult to find a solution for because of the way it was designed. And so that's another, just piece like that where students are moving from building to building.
My personal opinion on this, that price looks really reasonable, and if we're gonna do it, I think we better do it before the price goes up. I was trying to find that quote from last month that was pretty substantial for removing
Yeah, it should
that.
be on there with it, I think.
Yeah, it's the next one.
Oh, it is, okay, I'm sorry, I thought
That's
we got two new bids.
Well,
No, that's the same one, and then I added it.
Okay,
You said
gotcha.
one of the air conditioners are out, correct?
Yes, one of the air conditioners on one
Six or 10
side.
grand is for that.
Yeah, actually, because that building wasn't used a lot, they ended up piping, ductwork from one unit back to the other side, and so it hasn't really ever been set up exactly why it was originally designed from the time that happened, as far as HVAC.
Also mentioned that the fencing project, when we start that, once we have the fence there, we're kinda committed to keeping this building for a long time.
Yeah, and really because of the preschool classes, we really need to put a fence up this summer, so this is probably a, sooner than later decision as far as that. Now, we can always take it down and take it around the other side. We do not plan on doing any fencing on the north side of that building, from the building to Crusader Drive this year, because we already put up Roosevelt fencing this year, and so that's what we spent budget dollars on. But because the preschool's gonna be there, we are wanting to put something up just right there where the garden is, for the preschool playground.
Is there anything on the south side? Because there's not, is there?
South side.
There's a playground.
South side of which playground? Oh,
Like
no, you mean
where that
fencing?
building is, where the preschool was, on the south side, there's those trees and then those houses.
Yeah,
That's it.
I think it's just tree line.
That's where you really need fencing, because when we did have the preschool out there, kids ran away. I chased a kid in between two houses.
Yeah.
So I think you need one on the south side.
Yeah, and Futures has not said that we need to fence the tree line, but that's something that we can decide in the future, for sure. For sure.
I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that we accept the bid from Bradburn Wrecking Company in the amount of $12,782.57 to remove the outbuilding at Kennedy.
A second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, same. Okay. Moving on. Crisis plan.
All right, hey, we got to you pretty quick, Troy. Officer Wiley is here. He updates our crisis plan every year, and so what we talked about is he was gonna come talk to you about that this evening. And then next month, Chief will be here and continue to talk about. So this is not something that you need to approve tonight. This is something that we can talk about and then talk about any ideas you have, and next month, we can get it approved before school starts. That's all you,
Okay.
sir.
So let's take a look at the emergency operations plan or crisis plan, as it's often referred to. The board looks at it every year. School resource officer takes a look at it every year, makes suggestions for modifications. I haven't made too many suggestions this year. Is anybody not familiar with the plan, hasn't looked at it yet? Or can we just talk about the potential changes I'll suggest? So if you look at page 3, I believe your copies are highlighted in yellow. Page 3, you can see that I've updated some phone numbers. A lot of phone numbers were inactive, so if we had tried to use them, we wouldn't have gotten anybody. So I changed those, updated them, and I did call each of them to make sure that they were active. Does anybody have any questions about those?
Good.
All right. We'll move on. If you look at page 4, the only change I made there was, we all know that the old church on Woodlawn changes hands, changes names. I changed the name to Hans Place Woodlawn. Pretty self-explanatory. The next changes that I'll propose are on page 8.
Hey Troy,
Can I
you
have
got
a
a
question
question
about
on?
where you go? Like, I know there was a time here a couple years ago when Eisenhower had to all evacuate, and they all went down to, the nursing home kind of down there. And then they were going to church and it was locked, and so since there's 3 listed, what does that mean? Can they go to all 3 of them? Do they go to one? I mean,
I think they're considered options.
okay,
So you may have to evacuate from different sides of the structure, and different options might be better for different people. In that case, if you evacuated from the north side of the building, it might be better for you to go to a church.
yeah. You remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that I
I
can
do.
clarify that, cause I was
Yeah.
principal at that time.
Way to go, Kelly.
What happened was, we were supposed to go down to
Yeah.
Brookdale, down south on Plum Street. So all our kids, our teachers were marching down there, and, sorry Troy, but the police department sent them back the other way and said, no, you guys are supposed to go to that church down there. So that was where the confusion
Okay,
was.
yeah, I just remember it was like.
So we had Brookdale listed in our crisis, and that's where we were initially headed, but.
Okay.
So
They
along
sent us
those
the other
lines,
way.
have all these
Thanks,
places
Kelly.
been contacted and they're all good and gonna be open
I
and
have
available?
not contacted all of them. That's something that I can do.
They probably should.
For the Washington Elementary one, for Calvary Lutheran Church, I know the pastor did tell Mrs. Schindler that they could actually go into the church if needed. So you definitely might wanna contact him to make sure.
Yeah.
Cause it says the lot, but it's really just a yard, but if they needed to get in,
Probably on the north side is the lot they're talking about. I will make it a point to contact all of these locations to make sure that they're still available and that we have quick, immediate access.
Kelly, was there a problem with like one of the, so you guys went back to because there were 2 churches across the street. Was there a problem like one was locked or something like
Yeah,
that?
it was like, because we didn't have the key at that
Yeah,
time.
so that was another thing, you know, the schools might need to have a key to those
We
places.
had a key previously, but then it was in
Yeah.
transition
But I
and
remember
they
that being a
changed the locks. So that's why we were going down to Brookdale.
So, I mean, that might be something to consider, just so if they do go there, they have a way to get in.
I will look into that.
Cause we used to, at Kennedy, we always went into that church, we went all inside and we had drills all the time.
Okay. On page 8, under the intruder plan, down at the bottom, before or currently, it would say about 2/3 of the way down, if intruder poses an active threat to safety, before we had the ALIS system indicated there. And then ALICE, as you may know, stands for alert, lockdown, inform, counter, evacuate, all those steps. They would be broken down to some extent below there. I personally find that fairly complicated for people to run through in their minds in a stressful situation, so my proposal would be to simplify that. Most, if not all, of these options-based response plans for intruders are based on the run, hide, fight concept. However, they usually will come up with a complicated way to teach it, in my opinion. Like ALICE is kind of a longer acronym. I know none of us are gonna be thinking about that acronym when something's going down. So in my opinion, I propose that we consider using something more simple, which is the same concept that ALICE teaches, run, hide, fight. Those three options are really what we're talking about and what most of the option-based systems are based on. Another system that I've been exposed to personally that I like is ALERT. They're teaching the same thing. They'll use a different acronym, it's simpler, avoid, deny, defend, but it's still talking about run, hide, fight. So I have proposed changing that language, as you can see it there, to run, hide, fight. And those are the options that I could present when instructing staff and students in their responses.
So you go through and do a scenario at the school with the students in there so they kind of know something intruder wise? Do you do like a
That's
training session?
possible, yeah.
I think it'd be helpful because if not, you're gonna get some kids that are gonna be making the same time, I don't know.
So the police department did that at City Hall. And I don't disagree with you, Brandon, but you're talking adults working at City Hall, it shook them up.
I bet.
I mean, they came around and handed us shirts, and my shirt was just blood from top to bottom, and I was, shot in the hallway. And I mean, when people start going down the hallway and seeing that, it shook up these adults. If we do that, let's just make sure we're doing it
This is
properly.
I
stuff
don't think you have to
we
do
would
that,
be
go that
talking
far, would you?
about.
I just mean, practice.
I think
Right.
maybe with the staff, maybe not necessarily the students, but with the staff, at least
Yeah.
they can give some kind of guidance, cause
These are things that we would be talking about in August for sure. As I understand it tonight, we're talking about just the EOP, the crisis plan. This is just a minor change really, it's the same basic concept stated more simply.
So at the middle school, do they just go wherever they want? I mean, like it says run, so does that mean just go? But I know there's,
The basic idea is to get them away from the threat. That is the optimal response. And not being so concerned about where they went necessarily, even though it'd be great, and we will try to train them to go to a reunification site. The main idea is to get them away from the threat. So we're trying to teach it more simply, more basic, so it's easier to remember in a stressful situation.
So is that the actual, oh man, I forgot this is touchscreen. Is that the order that you run, hide,
Yes.
fight? Cause it kinda used to be with Alice, didn't it mean, wasn't it kinda more standard ground?
Alice is actually taught so that you can select any of those, any order you want.
Okay.
Okay. But again, it's more options to go through.
Sure.
Run, hide, fight is simpler. Training run, hide, fight, you really would kind of, you wanna focus on run being the optimal response. If you can't run, hide is a basic way of putting it, saying hide. There are different ways you can hide, different things you can do in that phase. And if either of those do not work, and you have no other option, then you may have to be prepared for it.
I know it's scary, but I think I think you should practice with the kids myself. Not with the bloody shirts and I always call it active shooter, and I know that's not right because that is really scary. But we call it something, and I just remember back when Sandy Hook happened, they had just had a drill. And I just thought, God, and that was how long ago, and I don't think we actually did those kinds of drills. They're scary, but I think kids have heard about it.
Any
My only-
training is gonna have to be tailored to whoever you're training, your age group, whether
Sure.
it be adult staff or students, it's always gonna be different.
My only thought with that, Pat, is that who's the shooter gonna be, and is that shooter gonna have that training and know what those kids are gonna be doing?
Yeah, I'm thinking really, really condensed now, not actually have a shooter, not actually have anything, just,
I'm just saying, if you train the kids what to do, eventually that kid is gonna grow up and be the shooter and, know what the kids are gonna do.
that's true.
That's a consideration.
I think my whole goal was not to actually do anything like that, just to give them an idea of what to do if something happened, like where to go, common ground, not scare them.
So if that was to happen, someone was to come in, we call that like lockdown, like the school. So do certain doors lock and then the kids can't even open them to be able to run? That's what I envision, like those doors shutting and,
You should be able to push out on any door
okay,
to exit.
okay.
Yeah.
But somebody couldn't pull it open.
If it's locked, you can't get in from the outside.
It's kind of like an emergency exit door.
Okay, so
where
they
it
just kind of hold on
locks
it,
back.
okay, okay.
Yeah, it all gets into fire code too, that's part of
Yeah.
the issue. We have, I know like at the high school, we had magnets over the lock, so if you brought the door closed, then it couldn't latch, and then so the kids could go in and out, but if there was an emergency, a teacher, all they had to do is yank the magnet and it would lock. And so nobody could come in from the outside into that classroom just by doing that quick. So, I'm sure there's plenty of teachers that are still using that tactic.
My understanding after just talking to some teachers, the last few years, they've just watched a video on it, which.
Last year was the
Like,
first year that I was involved in any of the training. At one building, I did do some drills with staff. And I know at the high school, I was given the opportunity to speak to the students, each grade separately in the auditorium. And that was the extent of what happened last year. This year, we intend to do more training with all staff and students.
I just didn't just watch a video and we're good to go.
I'm uncomfortable with my kids sitting in class worried about someone coming and blowing them up.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you have these more and more trainings, these kids are,
I just mean
That's
all the teachers have been
so
doing
you're just wanting
lately.
for staff.
Yeah, they just were
Nothing
told
for
the
the-
last, for a few years to just watch this video and and I don't know if they're given time, own time, whatever, before school starts, this is what we do, watch this video and then you'll find out what to do. It'd be nice if teachers had more understanding than just a video, or at least the time to be able to ask questions if they have questions about the video that they watched or something.
Definitely, there are folks that feel that it's probably better to train staff than it is to train the students. There is that consideration.
For sure, I think for sure. Okay.
You also have liability to consider. Should we be training students how to fight through that situation, which may make it an option that they move to when they shouldn't? And it may even complicate it. And what liability would we face if that happened, if that's the training we provided them?
So what do we do? Do you just leave that out or?
I think it would be best to provide it as an option. If you got backed into a corner and that is all you had left to do, at least you would have that option to go to. But I'm not so sure it would be a good idea to train the students and exactly how to respond.
Okay. Any other changes there, Troy?
That's all I have this year.
Can I ask one more question? I'm sorry. I just remember we went to that church at Kennedy because we had 2 different bomb threats. So are these kind of the same things you do if you get a bomb threat and you have to evacuate?
Sure.
Okay, you would just go to one of the places.
Yeah, hopefully,
Okay.
that's an option that we would take advantage of, so that they could reunify at one particular place and make getting them back to their parents a much smoother process, more efficient, quicker.
Thank you.
So I know this is just the first time and many probably talking about this, but I brought it up multiple times. I still not a big fan of the kids leaving a secure facility to get to another building. Just putting that thought out there for you guys to kind of start thinking about different ways we can maybe address that, or if there's even a possible way to address it.
I know that Adam has been thinking about that for years, other school personnel have. I've been thinking about it this year, before tonight for sure, trying to come up with a better way than what we're doing.
You know, if nothing else, ID badges that they can actually open secure doors as they're passing back and forth, so we're not
Yeah,
just
I've
leaving
considered
doors
that.
propped open for them to go back and forth. Something simple like that. We gotta do something.
Oh, you're talking about outbuildings when you have to go.
Yeah, so we got that issue at the middle school. If we do away with the building at Kennedy, we don't have that issue there anymore. And then we got that issue at the high school. I don't believe we've got it anyplace else.
Nope, ag shop and then the new gym at the middle school.
Yeah,
Both big.
and those have just always bothered me. I know when we did the bond issue on the auxiliary gym at the middle school, that was one thing that I brought up right at the beginning of it. Was told it was gonna be addressed, and it really still hasn't been addressed, so I just wanna make sure we get across that finish line.
Yeah, at the ag shop, the doors unlock during passing periods and then lock back down, so it's hard, it's one of those things, but regardless, there's students passing through those doors.
Yeah.
Back and forth, and
Especially
that's
at
the
the-
piece that's hard to.
Especially at the high school, because they've got such flexible schedules. I mean, people are moving around a little bit, and it's hard to do if it's just passing periods.
Right.
A little bit more finite control on that.
Yep.
Good stuff, Troy.
Any other questions, concerns? Alright.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. Like I said, Troy will be back in August, and Chief will be here as well, so we can let the community know that we've been talking about safety before school gets up and going. So that's the plan.
Okay, looks like that's it for discussion items. So administrative reports. Waiting back to Kelly.
Pass.
Okay. So I guess we're moving on to executive session.
I make a motion that we go into executive session for 10 minutes to discuss negotiations, include Adam Hatfield, Darcy Bacon. The regular meeting, let's resume at 7:03 PM.
A second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, same. Okay.
Yeah, we're just. That's it, we did something.
Well, I
Sitting here listening to you, you
just check it back, and I didn't take what the other.
just.
Okay, we are back in open meeting, no action was taken.
Make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss non-elected personnel, to include Adam Hatfield and Darcy Bacon for 1 hour. The regular meeting will resume at 8:03 PM.
Got a motion,
Second.
got a second, all those in favor raise their hand. All those opposed, same. Grab a drink.
Yeah.
We'll see you all much later.
We take one of these candy bowls with us. So is Daniel gonna play any sports?
Oh, yeah, he's doing cross country, he's
Okay.
doing his triathlon next week.
Oh, wow.
see if you've got
Shortcut.
Yeah, a couple.
it. Did you? Let me see.
Okay, we're back in open session and no action was taken.
However, we're gonna need another executive session to discuss non-elected personnel. Let's do 40 minutes to include just the Board of Education. Adam Hatfield on call as necessary. Regular meeting will resume at 8:43 PM.
A second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, all those opposed, sign.
I left it in there.
Just say 30 or 40. See how that goes.
Daniel, you gonna take a drink before you do this?
I've been out here running through the notes.
Oh, sorry.
I probably should. I'm gonna wing it.
The speed patch always is
Procedurally,
the-
he reads it all, then I make the
Resign?
amendments.
No, you make the
No, you
amendment
make the
first.
amendment first.
I got it.
The name.
Uh-huh.
Now
Yeah,
you say
because once
that.
he starts reading the consent agenda, then.
Yeah, he'll read it wrong if you don't amend it first.
Yeah, but how's he gonna know to skip what I told him?
He's gonna
Fine.
check.
I'm
Oh, there
ready
you
to
go.
go.
Okay,
Check
okay,
out copy.
Okay.
I just didn't know if you guys
Yeah.
made, I didn't know if you guys made changes to that, cause he just has.
A little bit.
It's gotta be in there.
So you might have
Yeah.
some corrections.
Cabell Quintino.
Oh, hey, we're backing up.
Okay, we are back in open session, and we are moving on with the consent agenda with a few amendments. The amendments to the consent agenda are the transfers of Joe Nichols from third grade at Lincoln to principal at Kennedy. And under the approved meal prices, strike the language, that there was no changes in meal prices from last year. And add the language that WMS and WHS paid breakfast increases by 10 cents. All other paid prices increased by 5 cents. We'd also like to add the approval of the 2022-2023 administration contracts as presented. And we would like to pull the superintendent contract from or move it to another point in the consent agenda, and the board will have a roll call vote on it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry for the confusion there.
Well, yeah.
Sorry, man.
I'm looking for the superintendent contract.
It would just be underneath the.
So shut me down if I start reading.
It'd be underneath the
It'd be under the
administrative
admin
contracts.
Under administrative.
You just need to add the language underneath that. There's no language for that specifically in there.
Okay. All right, so when I get there, I'll just say,
Just say administrative contracts with the exception of the superintendent,
with
and
exception.
then we'll add underneath it to deal with the superintendent.
Will that be a separate thing other than the consent agenda?
Well, we'll have to vote on it separately.
Ready to read?
Clear as mud?
Yep.
You ready to read?
Good to go. Go ahead. All right. Let's see. Act on appointments, designations, and authorizations. Deputy Board Clerk Daniel Farley, Food Service Authorized Representative and Determining Official for Free and Reduced Price Meal Applications, Kelly Adams. Federal Programs and Projects Representative Ann Shinliver. Truancy Reporters, All School Building Administrators. Coordinator for Homeless Children, Dr. Jen Kern. CAPERS Representative Stephanie Lawrence. Freedom of Information Officer Adam Hatfield. Federal Anti-Discrimination Compliance Officer Daniel Farley. Official newspaper for legal publications, the Wellington Daily News. Official depository for school district funds pursuant to KSA 9-1401 Impact Bank. Authorize the board clerk pursuant to KSA 12-105 BE to pay claims as needed in advance of the regular board meeting in order for the district to benefit from discounts. Authorize application for and utilization of funds from Title I, Title II, vocational grants, Eisenhower Math and Science grants, and food service program, free and reduced meals. Adopt the hourly required school year as follows. Kindergarten through grade 11, 1,116 hours. Grade 12, 1,086 hours. Adopt the state mileage rate of 56 cents per mile. Approve membership in the KASB Legal Assistance Fund, $2,300. Approve membership to Kansas Association of School Boards, $11,145.64. Adopt guidelines for activity funds and gate receipts according to KSA 72-82088A. Approve district handbooks as presented. Approve out-of-state travel for administration to national conferences as approved by the superintendent. Will be put in consent agenda if approved. Approved dates for budget review, publication, and budget hearing. The following dates are being presented. August 8th, 2022, 6 p.m., review budget and approve for publication. August 10th, 2022, publish budget. September 12th, 2022, 6 p.m., budget hearing followed by regular BOE meeting. Statutes dictate the process for budget approval. There must be at least 10 days between board approval for publication and the budget hearing. Approved meal prices for 2022-23. And WMS, WHS paid breakfast increased 10 cents. All other paid prices increased 5 cents. Elementary breakfast, $1.60. Middle school breakfast, $1.60. High school breakfast, $1.60. Adult breakfast, $2.55. Elementary lunch, $2.80. Middle school lunch, $3. High school lunch, $3.25. Adult lunch, $3.90. Reduced breakfast, 30 cents. Reduced lunch, 40 cents. Appoint Martin Peck as district's legal counsel. Appoint Jared Brown as district treasurer. Approve annual contract with USD 619 for 2022-23. Approve annual contract with Futures Unlimited for 2022-23. Resolutions. Act on resolutions authorizing petty cash and activity funds for administrative offices as presented pursuant to KSA 72-1177 and KSA 72-1178. Petty cash fund amounts: superintendent's revolving $1,000, high school $1,500, middle school $1,500, special education $500, and food service $500. Act on resolution 2201 authorizing a petty cash fund for superintendent's revolving fund. Act on resolution 22-02 authorizing a petty cash fund for WHS. Act on resolution 22-3 authorizing a petty cash fund for WMS. Act on resolution 22-4 authorizing a petty cash fund for special education. Act on resolution 22-5 authorizing a petty cash fund for food service. Act on resolution 22-6 authorizing activity funds for WHS. Act on resolution 22-7 authorizing activity funds for WMS. Act on resolution 22-8 authorizing activity funds for Lincoln Elementary. Act on resolution 22-9 authorizing activity funds for Eisenhower Elementary. Act on resolution 22-10 authorizing activity funds for Kennedy Elementary. Act on resolution 22-11 authorizing activity funds for Washington Elementary. Act on resolution 22-12 to establish Board of Education meeting dates, times, and location. Regular meetings shall be the second Monday of each month at the district office at 6 p.m. Act on resolution 22-13 to establish home rule by Board of Education. Act on resolution 22-14 to rescind policy statements from the previous year. Act on resolution 22-15 to waive generally accepted accounting principles, GAAP. Approve the minutes of the June 13th meeting. Approve payroll and bills. Payroll, $2,409,033.66. Bills, $817,786.49. Personnel, approve new hires. Angela Garlock, social worker, Kennedy. Tyra Dwyer, special ed teacher, Kennedy. Esmeralda Paez, speech pathologist, contracted through Soliant. Angie Bennett, Chartwell's manager, WHS. Kylie Penninger, para Eisenhower. Jessica Barnes, para WMS. Charity Brown, para Washington. Taylor Becker, assistant athletic director. Michaela Elmore, para Washington. Approve resignations. Rebecca Heil, para WHS. Michaela Brownlee, para Washington. Audrey Green, nurse. Gavin Pickering, kindergarten teacher, Kennedy. Jillian Macias, principal, Kennedy. Mary Kimberly Cabaquento, speech pathologist. Natasha Gurley, para Eisenhower. Mike Simpson, head of maintenance and grounds. Ed Collins, high school special education. Approved transfers, position changes. Ryan Jenkins, 8th grade math to social studies teacher, WHS. Karen Cornejo, WMS business teacher to 6th grade math teacher. Joel Nichols from 3rd grade at Lincoln to principal at Kennedy. Approved 2022-23 administration contracts as presented, with exception of the superintendent.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as read. All those in favor, raise their hand. All those opposed, same. Okay, and then the next item will be the superintendent's contract, and we've had a ask for a roll call vote on that. So we will, well, I guess I need a motion to approve the superintendent's contract.
I'll make a motion to approve the superintendent contract.
I second.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. All those in favor, raise their hand.
We're gonna do a roll call.
Roll call.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Thank you. Now to the roll call. Board clerk.
Chris Buckman,
No.
Brandon Earl,
Yes.
Deanna Garber,
Yes.
Tom Henning,
Yes.
Andrea Kreifels,
Yes.
Jason Newberry,
Yes.
Pat Zika.
No.
Thanks. Sorry for the confusion on that. I believe that is it. We've got one full long consent agenda, so now we're moving on to board member comments. Yes, go ahead.
I loved on the USD 353 website, the Meet the Teachers, the
I did too.
pictures and
Oh, yeah,
the-
that's great.
I was so excited to read that and to see who's all coming in and learn a little bit about each other, them, so that's really cool. Whoever's idea that was really cool.
Russ is, it's gonna be fun having him around. Cool. We see a lot of different things.
Let's just go around the table. Tom?
I don't really have much. The IT camp was pretty cool. Looked like there was a ton of people or students that showed up for that.
Very cool.
All my questions got answered, so I'm good.
Back over here, Chris.
Don't have anything.
I'm just gonna bring up the Wheat Fest with some of the sports that partook in it. It was really cool to see. Hopefully we get more sports people in it. Sports.
Enrollment's firing up. It's crazy.
Yep.
But yeah, it's getting to be about that time of year, so.
We meet in a month, we'll be rolling into school, so
Yeah,
crazy.
crazy.
Did you have a lot enrolling early? I mean,
Yeah, they usually, once we announce it, they'll start rolling in there, so. I don't have an official count from Peggy yet, but yeah, everybody starts getting on. We've got a lot of questions, so I know there's a lot of people on there.
Yeah.
in the school.
Okay. With that being said, I think that's it. We are adjourned.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Of course, I did that.
I'm not
This looks like a video.
Okay, so I'll call it. I can click on it. It's gonna be that.
Okay, cool.
Chart.
Get the driver.